Okay, lads, let's focus on everything coming up in week 8 of the Premier League season. Let's go up and down the table, give our picks, and preview the games. Starting at the top of the table, we've already talked extensively about Arsenal Man City this week on the show. And I think we all had different score predictions and results, didn't we? Andy, you went with a draw. Nick went with City. I went with Arsenal. So, Andy, I want to come to you first. A quick reminder on the key battles and how you think this game is going to play out.
Yeah, maybe not even the key battles, but the key questions and absences potentially with Rodri out for Man City, definitely due to suspension. Yeah, Pep has got some decisions to make. He's got 4 or 5 different options that have kind of played in that defensive midfield role over the last 6 to 12 months or so, but none of them do it the way that Rodri does, and also the absence of Kevin De Bruyne further in the midfield, the way that City can take control of games when they've got 2 players of that caliber in the midfield. Without that, how are they going to respond, I guess, is the biggest question in this one. Whether or not Bukayo Saka plays for Arsenal, there are players who can come in and I think do that job close to that level, especially in a game that's going to be back and forth and tight. So, like you said, I'll take the draw in this one, but I think whatever the result is, we are going to be entertained, no doubt about it.
Talking about entertain, Nick, Brighton against Liverpool. They're both in action in the Europa League in midweek. So this is an intriguing game. And Liverpool bouncing back from that demoralising defeat, controversial defeat away at Tottenham. Obviously, Jurgen Klopp's talking about replays and all sorts. But this is going to be a fun game down at the Amex, isn't it?
It is. And I think there is, for the first time, real pressure on, and not a lot of it, but real pressure on Roberto De Zerbi, because Brighton's outperformed the every metric. And when he took over and has done so well, so well, especially when the pressure was on for Brighton to identify someone who was going to do it better or at least as good as Graham Potter, does dropping to 5-3 and losing to another big team make it feel like it's Brighton more than the coach, right? It's the players more than the coach even. So I think this is a game where Brighton has to assert itself because or be left wondering, is this our ceiling? Because we have sold so many big players over the last few years.
Yeah, it's very true. I mean, that hammering they took at Aston Villa last time out in the Premier League was very telling, and I think maybe just showed the strains on the squad, the midweek, weekend grind. Getting used to it, I think. So
kind of how we used to talk about Bielsa, right? Like, is what they're asked to do and how busy they're asked to be, is that a real weight on these players?
Yeah, exactly. And all signs point to Liverpool kind of showing up and taking care of business there, but you never know with Brighton. You really, really never know. And they've given Liverpool some big problems over the years. So I'll probably go for a draw in that game, I think. I feel like that could be a pretty high-scoring, entertaining clash. Andy, as a Tottenham fan, you're hoping for an entertaining clash from a Spurs point of view when they go to Luton, right? I mean, they seem to deliver late drama galore wherever they turn up these days. So a nice, comfortable 2-0 away win. That's what you'd sign up for in this one. But Luton, very good from set-piece situations. We're a bit unlucky against Burnley in midweek. Got that big win away at Everton last weekend. So not as easy as it looks on paper, because I quite like Luton. I think out of the 3 new promoted teams, I think they're actually going to be the best set to scrap for survival.
Well, let's use the transitive property, Joe. Spurs beat Burnley 5-2, and just this week, Burnley beat Luton Town 2-1. And so you see what I did there? No, I would love something without some late drama for Spurs for once. It feels like every game is a cup final at this point. And so I think there is a bit of, some people are maybe getting a little bit ahead of themselves with, how much Ange he has obviously turned the club around and changed the mentality, but how much has he improved the team on the field and the performances? Because I think right now, and this might be a little sacrilege to say, I think the performances are out, or the results are outperforming the performances slightly at the moment, and they're getting away with it just a little bit. Now, that said, if you get away with it early under a new manager and you continue to improve as the season goes on, which no reason to believe that they won't, then you're going to be in really good stead come the later in the season. So yes, I will take a very dull, very boring 2-0 victory at Luton and be supremely happy with that.
There you go. Just waiting to see if that is the case, but I feel like it's going to be 4-3, 98th minute winner for Spurs. But let's move on to the next section of the games this week. Focusing on the teams battling for Europe and mid-table, Nick. Wolves against Villa, West Midlands derby. Villa flying under Unai Emery. Were great against Brighton last time out, and Wolves got the big win that they needed for lift-off under Gary O'Neill against Man City. So tough one to call, I think, but probably Villa. What are you thinking?
Yeah, let me know how tired they are. That's a big question for me, and I think it could really tip this in Wolves' favor, because dealing with Pedro Neto right now is a real handful. He has looked – Wolves have this tendency to sign guys who are going to be good in a few years. I think back to when they captured Fabio Silva, and we all expected him to be amazing at 18. They're doing a good job identifying and developing guys, and Neto just – I mean, he's looked like one of the best players in the league this year.
Incredible. Yeah, he really has been incredible. I think I might go for a draw on that one as well. I think Villa, just the rotation situation with Europe in midweek, and Wolves had a whole week to kind of prepare for that. Yeah, go for a draw in that one. I think Chelsea are going to win away at Burnley. I think they've kind of turned the corner now. We saw it a little bit more robust performance away at Fulham. Got that win, got back to winning ways, and we've talked about the metrics. I mean, just been unlucky with finishing. And Armando Broja, kind of most people forgot about him, that he was still there, I'm pretty sure, after that lengthy knee injury. But he's a finisher. And I think, Pochettino's got a great record. I mean, did pretty well with another number 9 when he was at Tottenham, right? Kind of similar player. I'm not saying he's the next Harry Kane, but he is in the same kind of mold of player. That's all I'm saying. And young, hungry, came through the system at Chelsea. So I think Chelsea are going to take care of business away at Burnley. Nick, West Ham against Newcastle. Quite a difference in challenge for Newcastle. Hammering PSG and dealing with all those attacking talents, and then going away to West Ham. I mean, this is intriguing, right? To see how they can really manage these Champions League huge occasions, and then, a game they're expected to win, but a really tough game against a defensive-minded team in the Premier League at the weekend.
Yeah, West Ham is probably, apart from Fulham, the most annoying team in the league, because they're going to set up to just suck your soul out. And it's the difference here is, I don't know that they'll, as much as Newcastle will have to ramp up from the occasion at midweek, they played a day before West Ham. They were at home. West Ham has a tricky Europa League tie, and Jared Bowen just called up to the England team. I think it just asks a lot of that player who runs his socks off and covers so much ground, and Ben Rama as well, guys like that, to ask them to deliver against 2 good opponents over the course of 4 days is just a lot. So I'm going to go for Newcastle based on rest and based on the fact that I think West Ham, I don't know that they're going to win any games in their 2 match weeks, because it's got to just be soul-sucking to play in that team.
Talking about soul-sucking, Harry Potter fans out there, David Moyes and West Ham are basically Dementors. Let's just call it that. Manchester United against Brentford. Andy, talk about soul-sucking for Man United right now. I mean, it's desperation times after that home defeat to Galatasaray in the Champions League, the way they're making mistakes, just basic errors, right? Time and time again. Yes, I know they've got injuries, but just isn't good enough, is it? And hasn't been good enough for Brentford either. So 2 teams that are out of form, what we're going to see at Old Trafford.
Man, it's incredible. The high quality, borderline world-class players that go to Manchester United and seemingly just forget how to play football. Year after year after year. Andre Onana is a perfect example. What he did midweek in Champions League, he was a big part of carrying Inter Milan to the Champions League final last season. And he gets to United. What has happened to him? There is something going on in that club. And obviously, there are injuries to some other key players, but some of them have not performed incredibly well. Brentford have a ton of injuries of their own at the moment. This is going to be a grinded out one, I think, for both sides. But United kind of are who the table says they are. They're 10th right now. They are 11th in expected goals and an 11th in expected goals against right now in the Premier League through 7 games. They are a mid-table team in performance and in results. So I will I'll shade it ever so slightly to United and give them a 1-0 victory in this one, but only because Brentford are just in really, really poor form at the moment.
And probably just because Rasmus Højlund is the only one bright spot for United right now, and I think he might be the difference this weekend. Crystal Palace, Nottingham Forest. I'm going to say what we're all thinking, a draw. I think I say this most weeks of Crystal Palace, but that seems like the biggest draw that you can bet on this weekend. Two very solid teams, just kind of cancel each other out. And I think they'll be way above the relegation scrap this season, both of them. And then talk about the relegation scrap, Nick, Fulham against Sheffield United. Again, poor Sheffield United, really. I mean, just demoralising the way they lost to Newcastle and then didn't really turn up against West Ham. But Fulham, I mean, joint lowest goal scorers in the league. Seems to me like that's an easy Fulham home win. And then lead us home, Nick. Everton against Bournemouth at Goodison. That's a huge game down at the bottom already because Bournemouth has started the season poorly. Poor Tyler Adams came back, had a setback. He's out now for an extended period of time. So Everton, Bournemouth, what's your prediction?
You know, there's only one game at a time that you can have, and you can't focus on one game this early in the season and say it could be a swing. But if Everton win this game, I feel a lot better about them feeling comfortable and regrouping and going from there. So I think the impetus is on them. I think they should win at home. I do like what Andoni Iraola is building, but there's a lot of pressure on Everton, and I think they can get a win here.
I think so too. All right, gents, thanks so much for joining me this week for previewing Week 8 of the Premier League season. Thanks, everyone, for watching. And remember, head over to Pro Soccer Talk on NBCSports.com. You can see it at the bottom of the screen there for all the latest news, how to watch information, video highlights, and analysis from all of the Premier League games coming up this weekend. It's going to be a fun weekend, a lot of huge matches. Thanks, everyone. We'll speak to you all very soon indeed. Cheers, guys.
Hi there, I'm Rebecca Lowe, studio host for NBC's coverage of the Premier League. Don't forget to hit subscribe to watch more videos all season long. And for even more Premier League content, from original series to live matches, head over to Peacock. And be sure to tune in for Premier League mornings every weekend on USA Network and on Peacock. We will see you there.